Major Kwiraboni, you had a submission to rebut the comments of Honorable Salaamu.
It's 2 points only. One is that politics is about organization, organization, organization. If you don't organize, if you do not plan, you face the consequences. It's like battle. He knows. You assess the situation, mission, execution, admin and logistics, command and signals, organization and planning. If you don't do that tedious work of organizing from grassroots to the top, and you stay in urban areas, you know, working among the elite, election losses will continue to happen for the opposition. That's number one. Number two is that the national resistance movement emphasis on young people started a long time ago. We both joined as teenagers. I was in senior 5, I think he was in O-level. And we fought for democracy.
He was a Kadogo. Paula was a Kadogo.
Paula was a Kadogo.
Yes.
We fought for democracy.
I have memories of that picture when he was shaking hands with
street youth?
No, so he was a Kadogo. He was.
Where were Kadogos manufactured? And
he must have been 12.
So
child soldier.
A child soldier, yes.
Okay.
If you look at the way we fought and the people who commanded us, our senior commanders were all in their 20s, most of them. Mzee was the one who was in his early 40s.
These were delinquents. We are talking about delinquents.
But we waged a guerrilla war and we won. We captured state power. We stabilized the country. We defeated insurgencies. Very, very young people, but phenomenal fighters. And then we set up a constituent assembly. We promulgated the constitution. We created institutions. We built an economy. We provided infrastructure. We now have international recognition as a country. All these achievements were made through mobilization of young people.
You heard what Mwanga Chivumbi said when he went to China?
So
how they perceive Ugandans?
No, you know, the group of 77 plus China is chaired by Uganda. The non-aligned movement is chaired by Uganda. Uganda has been a stabilizing force in the Great Lakes region. We have a contingent in Somalia. We have been stabilizing Southern Sudan. We are in the Congo. And in these elections, all those deployments outside Uganda will stay, and we will have peace and security. We will conduct a general election, and we will win, and we will continue stabilizing the country. All these are achievements of the young people of Uganda.
Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, what do we see next? And where does the opposition now have to look if 2026 is going to be an election worth talking about?
And now I would like to correct your narrative, and you have repeated it since we came here. And it's very, very important for media to call things who they are. Madam Musumba is a woman. I'm a man. So these are the two. So you can't refer to her as, you know, the human being. Now, you have consistently said the opposition lost.
Yes.
No. There was a fraud.
Okay.
Why do you want to pronounce yourself on a loss, not on a fraud?
Okay.
That's the immorality
what
in
would
this
I say?
country. No,
NRM took
that's
the
a
day.
level of
NRM
immorality.
took the day.
That's a level of immorality. How we have descended is that for you, you are not willing to pronounce fraud. You are willing to pronounce a loss.
Yeah, but will you pick my record that I said there were irregularities?
No. You have consistently watched you.
No, because what we are interrogating are the irregularities.
No, the thing is, we would want you to say, this is a fraud. That's why we start from unacceptability and acceptability. Now, if you have no distinction between that two, then you are lacking. And the country, that's why we are being taken for granted by NRM. Because be it religious leaders, be it media, be it civil, we fail to give names for what things are. You witness fraud, you call it a loss.
Okay.
So
Okay,
can
if
we,
I said,
can we
if,
first-
okay,
we need
if
to
I
find-
said for
yes.
your benefit,
Yes.
if I said for your benefit that
the
there
fraud-
was a fraudulent exercise where the opposition did not participate.
No, there was that, you stop there.
And there was a winner.
fraudulent-
And there was a winner.
No. Now you see, you are having a mouthful.
Winner fraud.
You're having a mouthful. Difficult to pronounce it. So, if we're going to help Uganda, and I've reached a level where I'm very, very crystal clear with what is wrong in this country. If you're going to help Uganda, it's high time the elite of this country stop pretense. If you witness fraud, call it fraud. If you meet a thief, call him a thief.
Okay.
But you say
you shunned an
You
exercise,
see, no-
and you're here saying
no,
it was fraudulent.
we didn't. How did we lose if we signed? Don't be contradictory. If we
you
signed,
say-
did we lose?
You said we were reluctant to get into it.
No. Forget about what I told you. You man, you have Rugambo. Now, what I want us as elite.
From the
You see,
onset, you said.
the problem. Let me tell you, the problem of Africa. We are always let down by the elite. Okay? Who fail to pronounce things the way they are. They witness a dictator and call him a dear leader.
But the best way to handle this process, if you want to help your country, in which your children will mature, your grandchildren will thrive, let us interrogate the entire process.
Yes.
What was the NR, what was the register? NRM ran a parallel register. This one he has been ably describing, that we set out to invest in youth, parallel with the Electoral Commission. Electoral Commission does this, they also pronounce theirs. And so the entire country gets distorted, disoriented on who takes precedent. Is it the Electoral Commission or is it the NRM? And this is
It's because
a
we're
plot.
many.
No, you're just a plotter. You plot, you obstruct, the national processes by your own party processes.
You know the final
And then you hide the opposite, you hide the registers.
We are so many, we move like a juggernaut.
No, you don't. You are not doing it.
Honorable Mwanga, you may continue.
So the processes must be audited. Please don't invite us into debates that are dissonant.
I appreciate the necessity
You
of
see?
interrogating what went wrong.
The processes.
That's a very good direction.
We don't want.
And I have no qualms about
I
it.
don't want to investigate what went wrong. What should happen for this country to thrive, also to grow
Precisely.
viable young people
I
for the
asked-
next generation.
And
Of course,
and my question
the poor
was-
youth, the poor youth that you are proud
Honorable
of
Salaamu,
can never compete
My
with the Kenyan
question
youth.
to Honorable
And
Mwanga
yet they will
Chifubi
live
was,
within the same space.
what next that would make 2026 more credible? And I thought that's valid. That's pertinent, isn't it?
First and foremost, you go back to the fundamentals. You want an inclusive society, and you want to see everyone to see himself in Uganda. You want full participation of all the willing. You want a non-violent process. You want the military and the street apparatus out of civic space. This is very basic. Out of civic space. Now, the whole process you are celebrating at a key junction was a PISO, a GISO, and a DISO.
And those are constants in every election.
No, what saying? In fraud,
They are not.
they shouldn't even come
part of
near.
it.
Come near. And for you have normalized that.
No, I'm not normalizing
You have normalized
I
that.
am not normalizing it. I'm telling
You have normalized that
that's a
absurdity.
reality.
And you call it a reality.
So how do you sum out?
That's
How
why
do you
are
sum
calling
out?
it-
How do you sum out these ugly realities? How do you sum out
and
them
you're calling it
ahead of 2026? They have already shown you, given you a sneak peek into 2026 is going to be like.
Now, 2026, like any other election that we've gone through, there is a mountain Elgon. You choose to climb it. You must find a way. So we are going to an election full aware that it will not be free and fair. And give it to Dr. Kizza Besigye and now to Bobi Wine. Doctor called it consistently a defiance. We have called it a protest vote. So we are from the word go saying this is not a normal election. Now, the framers of the Constitution, and these who are in government, should have been alarmed that how do we go to an election when a bigger chunk of the society is saying it defiance, and another group is saying a protest. Shouldn't it worry you at the Secretariat that you have a huge group participating in an election, one is saying we defy you, the other one is calling it a protest? Is that a normal country? And mark you, elections full dictators. And elections full of people who are obsessed in government. Bashir, here in the neighborhood, was toppled after where he won nearly 90%. Hussein Mubarak, was it of Egypt, has just won an election. Hussein Mubarak has just won an election by 98%. Go to Algeria, where all this started. A ruling party had just won an election. So, even in Yugoslavia, even in Indonesia, everywhere, where people have challenged the dictatorship, that pretend to have elections, they always manipulate them and win them by resolute numbers. Therefore, he knows. He's been watching in other spaces where I've been having a discussion with you. They should never fool you. Never be fooled by outputs of an election. What we are saying is an increasing level of resistance. Increasing levels of people who are not even willing to go and register to vote. That should worry you. Okay? Potentially, you have 18 million people who are supposed to be on the national voters register. Who are there? How many people are going to turn up to vote?
And now you're confronting a group that says, come rain, come sunshine, we have to win. There is a disenchanted population on one side.
Now,
and
for you,
another force
you
that
are
wants
confronting a group that is determined to usher this country to chaos. These ones, being obsessed to power, they are doing everything now humanly possible to give Uganda no option other than to choose violence. And we must condemn them. For me, that is the biggest debate. Is NRM today, because NRM has a government, is industry, has a moral obligation to set this country to prosperity and to a free
Thank you. You have a point of information.
You are sending us to chaos and disorder.
You have a point of information? Okay.
Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, the NRM has survived for these 40 years in government because it has a political thermometer. We listen to the people. We know every nook and cranny of this country. We talk to everybody. That's why we have those 30 people in every village, which you don't have. Now, how does that help us? That helps us to know that the people who oppose the national resistance movement are urban-based and they are few. And they have tried. So many attempts have been made to even use that option you're talking about. But they have failed. Does it intrigue
you that there is opposition in urban areas?
The governments of Hosni Mubarak, Gaddafi, and all these others you're talking about, they did not have the political thermometer to know what are the people saying. For us, we put our ear to the ground.
Okay.
The tactics we used in the bush, we still have them.
Does your thermometer,
listen to the people.
Does your thermometer give you a diagnosis of why there is opposition in urban areas and submission in remote areas?
Yes, because now the problem is Museveni. Because if you talk about transition and change, which is now the song of the opposition, there has been transition in local councils. There have been transitions in parliament. There is change of leadership. But there is an obsession with the office of the president. When is Museveni going?
Why is it in urban areas, not in rural areas?
It's in urban areas because these are spaces which are easy to mobilize. Social media, unemployment, there are very many other social forces that make it easy for them to mobilize in urban areas. But if you are serious enough to go, for example, to Bunyoro, where I've been operating for the last 1 year, you find the people are very appreciative. All roads that have been built, they are very appreciative of the business across Lake Albert into the Congo. They are very appreciative of foreign investment and tourism. The ordinary person, Kampalans don't move. You don't cross Karuma. You don't know what has been happening for the last 20 years since we ended the war.
You abandon Kampala to go.
If you are confused, what do we do with people who don't know what they want? If you stay here, you don't know. Uganda is not Kampala. Uganda is Karamoja, Uganda is Acholi, Uganda is Busoga, Uganda is Toro, Uganda is West Nile.
You agree Kampala has
so
risen.
This exercise is a microcosm of what is going to happen come 2026. I'm telling you, NRM is going to get a landslide victory.
Yeah, but you've always won in youth elections.
No, this one is going to be overwhelming. I'm telling you the truth. On account of us having felt what the people need and worked tirelessly to address the people's needs.
What you never did then?
No, it has been incremental. But now we have game changers. PDM is a game changer. Emioga is a game changer.
Not at all. Yes.
The writing on the wall speaks to a protest vote. While another section of the opposition calls it defiance, another one says we are into a protest vote. Do you think this is such a huge threat?
It's not, but I think even this conception are being really not put correctly. I have seen on some posters, especially the new Kampala woman aspirant, she puts it a protest vote. My understanding, my grammatical sense of protest vote, with the English I learned from Tare School. No, with the English I learned from Tare School is that we are participating in this election, but we want to vote against government or against NRM as a protest vote. It is not an understanding to mean we are not participating, because it seems we are taking it at the same time, that a protest means a non-participation. Here, there is a participation, but that don't vote for NRM. That is what I understand by protest. Defiance had almost reached a point of saying you are going to vote for nothing. We are not even going to participate. At the very least, I'm not going to offer my candidature. That's what Bessie said. So I wanted us to be clear on defiance and the protest as perceived by NUP. They are two different things. Defiance that even if I participate, I want to see the result.
Do you want to be educated on what protest means?
Protest, well, that is, I told you my grammatical sense. And I want to be sure that I thought defiance, as portrayed earlier by Dr. Kiza Besige, was like a non-participation.
Can Mwanga Chivumbi help you in a minute? But for you to understand what protest means. Why do you waste time? Oh, no, I'm not wasting time.
But the tactic of defiance is there.
Listen to me. Do you know what ghetto means?
Yes.
It has a different meaning, a social psychology that has changed from its English speak. So, if you're going to equate the Queen's English with the Ugandan English, you're in the wrong space.
So put it in practice. Please. What does it mean in practice? What do the architect mean?
Okay, let the architect speak to us.
What do the architect mean?
About what?
When the woman MP of Nup for Kampala says protest vote, what does
you are near the answer.
I'm near the answer.
Any vote.
I'm correct.
Any vote against status quo is a protest vote.
That's what I said.
What has it always been?
No, any vote against status quo is a protest.
Yes,
vote.
That's what I said.
You are saying, I'm dissatisfied, I want change. But in Uganda's context, it doesn't mean that.
No.
It means the ground is unfair, is unleveled. We are going to ride against the tide. Correct. We are going to go for unfairness. We are going to be beaten. We are going to be harassed. But we will stand nevertheless.
So I still had the microphone.
No. Get what I mean.
wanted to know.
You wanted to know.
You finished the definition.
So what do you want to know?
Okay, back to you, Paula.
So
now you've heard. These are not mere slogans.
They are not
Yes.
mere slogans.
They are loaded messages.
Correct.
it's a matter, you see, for me, it is a matter of coinage. It is a matter of coinage. Whether you coin it protest vote or whatever you coin it, the point is that we were going to go for voting. Those who will agree with our point of view will vote for us. Those who don't agree will not vote for us. So those who will not vote for us, it doesn't matter the titling. Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
but we are going to...
It could turn around the odds of the 2026 election.
Yes. Now, I wanted to answer your question in also. You kept asking what is next, especially when the question what is next was emanating from the special interest group election, because that was the basis. For us, what is next is interesting. One, if you take it at the legislative level, their level, members of parliament, you find that we already have about 20 members of parliament. How? Because our structures come from the grassroots. The 90%, 89% that we have won will go to the next level.
You have 30.
Okay? We have 30.
Can I give you the
Yes,
30?
so we already have 30 members of
You have
10
10 from UPDF. Okay? You are sure there will be NRM.
Yes.
You have 5 women,
NRA.
disability. You have the youth. So when you add those numbers, you have 30 from the word group.
Anyway, I meant MPs who are NRM flag bearers. The area of the military, I'm not entering. But what I'm saying, what next? I'm still answering your question of what next. What next at the legislative level? At the legislative level, we already have over 20 MPs. Okay? Because for the youth, when they leave the village, the 90 or so percent, they'll go to the next layer, They will form the youth council. And whatever level that they will be, whether it is region, in northern, western, southern, or whatever, we shall win. So what next means at the legislative level, we already have 20 members of parliament.
Can I ask you, Major? You've been around for the last 15 years. Tell me any initiative, any agenda that has been spearheaded by a women council, by the youth council. Just tell me one.
Your question is noted, but
just
let me have my floor.
No. I hope you
just tell me one.
Yes.
No.
One national.
We can't have a coherent presentation.
No, it's okay.
Now,
we are talking about elections.
Our next, I've already stated for you, in the legislative framework, we already have members of parliament. But if you go down, even at the presidential or other elections like council or whatever, we already have in the village our foot soldiers, like the youth, 9. Or 5 for the party, but 9. We already have for the women as foot soldiers, 9. We already have for we have it. Therefore, going in 2020 for the election, the effect now is that the basis of the foot soldiers walking to the village to persuade, to market the ideology, the achievements of the movement are already in mass. And therefore, that already gives us an advantage over others, because we already have people who have stood in election, who are in the structures, but they're living in the population.
Something baffles me.
Yes.
You've had all these structures forever, but every outcome is always disputed as a stolen election.
Well, I can't talk about a stolen election. I was listening to him. You see, Kagwa, sometimes it puzzles me. If somebody came from planet Jupiter and is told this squarely, I don't know what his judgment would be. You have the entire West Nile. You have the entire Choli, the entire Lango, the entire Karamojo, where you have no polling assistant for NUP in all the elections. But don't you get surprised that in Agago, it is declared that Museveni has won by 70%. Even when NUP doesn't have a polling assistant. If we are this fraudulent, why haven't we declared Agago 100%? Or why haven't we declared West Nile 100%? or actually 100%, they don't have polling assistance. Why is it that the rigging is very selective? And again, if we're this supreme in rigging, how comes we lose a whole region where you have support? So do we select to rig even on this topic and 70% where you don't have an agent? Please, the idea of rigging should not be just a mouth talking. Let anybody talk with evidence. Even it goes to the youth that we are talking about. We are saying it is fraud. We are teaching children fraud. But nobody has gone to challenge even a village election in court to show how fraudulent it is.
Thank you. Thank you. Honorable Salaamu.
Yes.
The roadmap is already rolling.
Yes.
How prepared is the opposition? If you're to do a very honest reality check.
You must also talk to yourself.
No, I'm talking to you.
No, talk to yourself to understand the proper concepts. Ask about PFF, about NUP, about DP, about UPC.
Gone are the days where we used to have the opposition.
Please. You are also disoriented. You are getting disoriented. Please, liberate yourself from that talk. It has been around us, and it's not helpful. Ask NUP. How ready are you?
No. Okay. We once had an opposition that would form coalitions towards elections, alliances, and move, have a common agenda.
So where is it now?
Where is it?
Please, that's not my responsibility. I have no registered party called opposition. Do you have it?
Does it worry you at all?
It doesn't worry
you're going
me
into
at all.
2026 scattered more than ever.
What is the scatter? Has this country been dissipated that I'm scattered? I have my feet on the ground. Ask me, are you presenting a presidential candidate? The answer is yes.
No. I need your general assessment of the opposition.
I'm not employed for that, sir.
No, you're into politics.
I
would like you to give your honest evaluation.
I'm running a party that I must be preparing for the general election.
The rest
as
is
a
none
weapon.
of your business.
Listen, that's secondary. That's secondary. I want to dissuade you from talking to us as opposition. None of us has gone to register as opposition. We have registered as parties with a fair chance to win.
Okay, do you think
if
odds were to change, it would be prudent for opposition political parties to have a discussion around the forthcoming election and how best or how better it can be sanitized?
And that discussion is happening, sir.
At what level?
At national level. You can ask Chivumbi, ask me.
What are the ingredients of this discussion?
Listen to him. Have you heard? When we are ready and authorized to speak to you about it, we will.
No, but when you check the general tempo, there is every impression that everyone is running their own show separately, and there doesn't seem to be a spirit of unity. Nothing brings you together.
There's a pool of interested political actors in every entity. That pool provides for us the raw material to deploy for elections.
Major Raboni, you've heard the opposition is in talks at high level.
But before you go to
would it give you reason to believe that, yes, indeed, the odds for 2026 could be different?
Oh, no. To be honest with you, there is a very big problem in the Ugandan opposition. The people of Uganda are watching, and they want to see alternative policy options. They don't see much. They see the opposition struggling to organize themselves into entities that can offer an alternative to the NRM, but they don't see that. The National Resistance Movement, through its sane and sober macroeconomic policies has made the economy grow above 6% per annum. Infrastructure is being worked on. Tourism is booming. Security and stability are guaranteed. The NRM is going to overwhelmingly win the forthcoming elections. So the special interest group elections are a microcosm, a sign of what is going to happen in 2026. So if they don't organize their house, I'm afraid it will be embarrassing.
Okay. Do you want to argue that NRM now is at its strongest ever?
Absolutely. We have our small mistakes on how we resolve in-house contradictions, but those will be ironed out. And as soon as we do that, I don't think there will be much competition.
Did Kawempe give you a clear barometer of where NRM stands?
Kawempe had some mistakes on many sides. On the side of the opposition and on our side, mistakes were made. And we are working very, very hard and quickly to cure those. But on the whole, looking at the whole country, we don't have much challenge this time around.
Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, the talk of coalitions and formidable blocks to put up a resistance against NRM in the forthcoming election.
Pick it where Honorable Musumba stopped, with you setting narratives of opposition.
Do you find it offensive to call
No, first of all,
it's a misrepresentation.
It's a misrepresentation.
Where do you belong?
There is no party called opposition.
Yes, but there is
I'm a member, I'm a member of National Unity Platform.
And you belong?
No, I belong to a party called National Unity Platform.
Yeah, but in the construct, there is the ruling and the opposition.
Now, the context of, if you want to discuss between government and opposition, you should discuss collective, the people. Okay? Ugandans, there are those on the two sides are there who feel that they've been left out of the economic pie chart. Happiness, which my brother here paints, which is massive unemployment. Every single day, including today, our young people are boarding a plane, okay, to go somewhere in the desert and find a job. In spite of a thriving economy. In spite of a thriving economy. An economy that 10 trillion of our resources is stolen, and everybody read about that. An economy between you and me where the leaders have massively grabbed poor people's land all across the country. An economy where human rights abuses are given, military has taken a center stage. It is on the verge of a family rule where even NRM belongs to is a captured party. That somebody wants not only to be president, it is his brother, it is his son, his wife, and his economy that have effectively taken over government. And you and me are being rendered useless. That unelected person out there, someone's elected leaders, and you are saying that is normal. Ugandans are watching, and that's the country we want to be in. Nobody goes to a query here. You can say you go to their offices. They are not busy. They park their cars, leave home. But you go to somewhere in Igulu.
They are very busy.
You are not.
Mwanga Chivumbi is very uncomfortable lumping them together as the opposition, and so is Honorable Musumba. But nevertheless, I'll call them the opposition. Major Okwir, you've heard there is a sense that this time the opposition is coming in with a lot of vigor, more determination. Do you think the NRM can reclaim the areas, for instance, where you performed dismally in the central region, given the kind of enthusiasm from the opposition, especially NUP?
Definitely the NRM is going to do much better in central region and Osoga. Reason being, in the last 5 years, they have seen the operation of the NUP and other opposition political parties in parliament and in local government. It was dismal. So, having performed dismally, people have begun questioning the promises that were made to them in the last election, 2021 campaigns.
What
So,
have you done yourself?
very many of those people are saying, kumbe, these people were giving us empty promises. And this was accentuated with the rift between the gentleman from Masaka, Mpuga and Honorable Chagulanyi, and the other splinter groups that are emerging. And the failure of and for FDC, my friends in FDC, are in big trouble.
Wow.
I don't know whether they'll be able to reorganize in the next 6 months, but NRM is now primed and ready to take that ground and overrun these forces.
Honorable Salaamu,
told lies in 2021.
I think this touches you directly when NRM says Busoga is on their radar. What's the reality check on Busoga?
Where do you live, sir?
I live here in
No,
Uganda.
sir. You don't know the statistics that speaks volumes about the neglect that part of Uganda has been lumped into. If you were to compare Obote's Busoga and Museveni's Busoga, you'll be so ashamed. Let me just tell you about young people. UBOS has given to us statistics that Busoga has a population, has 986,000 young people between the age of 18 and 30.
986.
Yes. Of these, 687,000 have not gone to school.
Have dropped out or haven't?
Have dropped out of school, have not gone to school. It's a mix. Only 127,000 have some form of education. A place that has never had war, a place that has supported NRM non-stop, a place that is just a stone's throw away from the capital. Obote's Busoga, statistically, economically, socially, was number 2 to Buganda. Today it is second last next to Karamoja. Those two Busogas do not make good news for this country.
Paula, how is the situation in North and what would it take for NRM to sweep, given the Balalo factor that is now raging?
The situation in the North is very promising, especially when you take in the context of activities that government has done and fixing it to the next forthcoming elections. And there are indicators to prove, especially from where they were or where we were to now. Economic indicators. You very well know that many interventions has been put in northern Uganda, reconstruction and rehabilitation. A lot of resources has been put in the area. But also, the mere fact of the stopping of the war itself was a big investment, the unseen investment. The peace itself is the unseen investment. But other constant running programs across the country like PDM and all these others.
How about the anger from the Balalo question, the unresolved Balalo question?
I'm coming to that. The Balalo question has been handled and is seen to be handled. The president has consistently issued, taken a clean position, a clear position, and implementation is in progress. But at least people see no bad faith on the side of the president. And a few days ago, General Saleh, him demonstrated by saying, if we have to demonstrate that the Barao have to leave, I'm pulling out my cows. And remember, for him, this land was even a land owned by his wife, who was an Acholi. But he said, no, since these cows are associated with me, I am taking them. So it is work in progress. Now, among the other indicators is, me and Okwi participated in a negotiation with, was it 13 MPs? Or 15? 15 actually MPs who were, these people don't want the coinage of opposition, but I can say opposition because we call them non-NRM. That means independent MPs, FDC MPs, and others. We participated in a negotiation for them to come and work for NRM. So the fact that in Acholi alone, you can negotiate, in Acholi alone, you can see.
You're looking at the Badege MP.
But how can you do politics without dialogue?
Come again?
But
You're looking at the Badege MP. What's his name?
Yes, Akol, Olanya, the man of Chua, all those.
Olanya. Did Olanya join you?
Olanya is in the negotiation. He was.
Gilbert.
Gilbert.
Yes.
Yes.
Gilbert, yes. So we are talking of...
I want to hear this again. Olanya is crossing.
Not crossing. Olanya is in a team of members of parliament and other chairmen, LC5, who are non-NRM, who negotiated with us to sign a pact to agree to work with NRM. Now,
Gilbert.
yes, now, to agree to work, not to cross. To agree to work here means for him, and I think it is his few exception him, he will contest in his party to flag. But he agrees to work with us.
He will be supported.
In effect, it would mean that in the process, he will campaign for our presidential candidate.
Thank you.
So, no, but I wanted to say something, which I think I think I've answered you for the North.
No, I'm going to come back to you. Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, when you look at the emerging dynamics, take for instance, in Buganda, like Major Okwiri highlighted, you've already had a splinter. The massacre factor has affected the opposition grossly. Do the dynamics favor you or work against you?
For example,
the test for that.
For example, they've just made a 50 million investment per constituency, which they hold under the NRM for Uganda. Wherever constituency they've gone, they've been giving a sitting MP 50 million to organize for them a crowd.
To organize a bash, a musical bash.
A musical bash.
And ride on that.
And ride on that.
Yes.
They've been giving 50 million per members of parliament.
Is it sanctioned from the top or?
I know.
It's mobilization.
The coordinator has been the Attorney General. He's been a chief guest for all those other things.
He's the Chief Muganda.
The Chief Muganda.
Make it simple.
They've just made a 30 billion investment in causing a split in Inup.
Wow.
Which I know will backfire on them. I know who is dealing with it. We know. And I can tell you it's dead investment in water.
Dead on arrival.
Dead on arrival. 30 billion just a few months ago. And we know who has taken. They've just made a huge investment in dismantling FDC. Okay? But in the process, they have now helped the opposition, Ugandan, to now clearly know who is on their side and not on their side. Now, on what you define as opposition, that's why we oppose to it. Some of those groups pass as of opposition. But in essence, they have pacts already. I know.
Happily disclosed.
God is good.
All the
all the time.
God is good and that is nature.
And then comes
Wow.
here and tells you, as you deal with the people, there are those who have pacts already and
To
are
work
willing.
with us.
And are willing. And these are many groups in Uganda. That's why now the nomenclature is go and put a one opposition and then create many. And that's why the opposition as well. You are afraid. There is no way lamp you up. Now, right now, as the election comes in, it will be more clear on what it takes, on who has gotten what. This time we shall name people.
Name names.
You are not Gwanjala going to. The last time on a talk show like this one, I think I was with you. Was I with you in the morning breeze? Yes. I said this Mau here has been given money. There was an uproar. People wrote, said, you a liar, you've told. But I said, I know this one has been given money. He's going to go and join NRM. Even now we know the 30 billion you are investing. You think if we know, the people will not know. And let me tell you, in this country, the poor soldiers who carry this,
the loot.
the road, and they have nothing home. They are sleeping in a manyatta. That very evening they tell us.
30 billion has been sunk into a project.
In a project in Uganda.
To dismantle the opposition.
To dismantle NUP. And I know it. 30 billion.
That's huge.
It's huge, we know it. And it's going to fail. Because...
Do you want to share details?
No, those are details I've shared.
What more?
From
if you live in
and
Uganda,
who are the beneficiaries?
If you live in Uganda, I've told you. They've just made they've told you the 50 per constituency, and I know it. I know the other strategy is to stage some so-called independence. Okay, where they think the ground is so hostile. Stage an independent and the dummy of NRM fund an independent. Who will even dress in Salama's colors. If they think the constituency of Salama is more PP, they will sponsor an independent who will be putting on your colors and abandon and give an NRM. We know what the script.
So you're saying NUP has been infiltrated?
No. I've just told you. Secret. It's not an infiltration. If we know, then can you infiltrate us?
You mean you don't know? How old are you?
You get it? So, what I want to tell you, no, those elements are no longer NUP. Good enough they have left. But there is a 30 billion investment in them. I can show you a document that was put to someone's office, and I have a copy of it. This thing. Now, the good thing is, in doing so, now what he is revealing that you have an Olanya who has already signed a pact. Okay, and he says, I will stand on the other, but I will work with you. Okay, deception. Those kind of things are not going to help. That's the worst thing you get of a decaying political order.
Okay.
That NRM, with all its purity, has been reduced to those manipulations. That's not a mark of a strong movement. It's a mark of a movement that is failing. Now, what we are dealing with...
Okay, Honorable Mwanga, for the viewers, by the way, switch and re-strategize. That and much more will inform our discussion with Honorable Proskovia Salaamu Musumba, one of the founders of the PFF, People's Front for Freedom. What is your official position now?
I am not a founder member of the People's Front for Freedom. The 12 promoters, the other fellows that are registered on the books.
So you're a senior member?
Yes.
Okay, good to have you. Major Queen Raboni from the NRM Secretariat, who runs the mobilization office. Thank you for joining us and a very good evening.
Thank you, Simon, and good evening, viewers.
Yes, is it by coincidence that again we have Major Paula Awich, still from the NRM Secretariat, head the external affairs desk at the NRM Secretariat. Nice to have you and a very good evening.
Good evening, but you could also know that I am Major Kui is also Major Okwi.
Wow.
Both of us are Majors Okwi.
What?
And a which Paula
This is
Okwi.
Raboni
Well, Raboni Okwi.
Paula Okwir.
Okwir.
3 names.
Very interesting. How?
So if you come to Secretariat and you are looking for Major Okwi, you have to be very specific on which one you want.
And in a very special way, we have Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, the Deputy President, National Inter-Platform, Buganda, and Member of Parliament for Butambala County. Good to have you and a very good evening.
Why do you call it a special way?
I'm excited to see
I'm
you.
always here.
I am excited to see
You want to scare the majors here?
Well, good to have you and a very good evening.
Good to be here. But you didn't introduce Sama very well. She founded PAFO, Parliamentary Youth.
The Young Parliamentary Association.
The Younger Parliamentary Association.
Yeah.
Founded PAFO, founded the Reform
Agenda.
Founded
No,
the
not
F-Food.
Reform Agenda. I came to FDC through the Parliamentary Advocacy Forum.
From PAFO.
From
Yeah.
PAFO. Then to FDC as a promoter.
Yeah.
And life now.
Just a while
So
in
is she-
politics.
Is she in transit?
Now
Or
another promoter.
is she a nomad or she's
No,
just in
I'm
political
not.
transit?
No, I'm on that mission.
Oh, good to have you. I'll start with you, Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi. How are you processing NUP's dismal performance in the elections?
Does it make news? I'm even surprised that you've made it a topic today. If you study, and it's a narrative that the state is interested in, it coincided with a fake opinion poll. And it's a platform for rigging or a rigged process already. Now, youth interest groups, youth workers, disability, now elders, and youth, women, are literally a haven for Dictator Museveni. If you want to see how imperfect our electoral system is or has been and will always be, if you don't have a democracy, subject yourself to those processes. Now, the question is, why
How come
do
you
we-
won in some
how
areas?
how comes we went there? How comes we had a go at it?
When you didn't believe in it?
When you didn't believe it, that's why we call it a protest vote. That's why Salaamu Musumba's gonna call it defiance. You must understand that's a paradigm. And some of you think you can have a dictatorship and a free and fair election. You can't.
So does this suggest that
You can't.
you're reluctantly going into elections?
We are going into an election knowing very well that this election we are going to is not a normal election. Does not meet the minimum benchmarks of a democratic process. And we are not in a democratic dispensation. And that's why some of us still hold a view, is that you don't have a multi-party dispensation in Uganda. You have clusters of change, you have clusters, you have groups. Like when you want a wave, you mobilize this ripple and that one and you organize a wave. So that's where we come from. And therefore, some of you have a luxury that you are in a multi-party dispensation. I sympathize with you. That's why you bring up these topics after these elections. Just create a narrative for a state of a fait accompli of the next process.
Okay. Does this outcome give you any motivation or any pointers to what you're going to confront in the next few
Now,
months?
if I've been around, since when did the opposition do well? In youth, women, or elderly, or the army, or those other elections? Since when? Now, you who has to make news is the one that I'm saying you've not been around. Have you been in Alaska? Or you've been in Uganda?
No, but I thought the National Unity
No,
Platform.
you thought wrongly.
No, look, I thought the National Unity Platform that boasts of having a strong youth support would be interested in these elections to test the ground ahead of 2020.
Are you aware that there is a special register for youth?
Yes, I am.
You are aware? Are you aware that there is a special register for women? And are you aware how that register, in some areas, that register was brought on a phone? Somebody will scroll on the phone and say, you are not a member, you are not a youth, for you are not a Rigi. But I know it. It happened in my area.
Were you ever prepared for this election?
We went in there knowing it was for purposes of exposing the extent of decay. And understand, Major Rabon, and I think this one,
Paula, which?
These which is majors, they went to the bush. The basis of going to the bush was a protestation of a rigged electoral process. They were saying never again on our watch. Therefore, it's a discount, it's an abuse to those who have fought. No, these are heroes because they never died. But the true heroes of the war are in some bushes somewhere in Ruamata, in those other bushes, in Ruero, in Butambala. Those are the real. They died to have a free and fair election. Now for them to live for a worse election than Obote organized in 1980 is a critical abuse of the entire struggle they went through. They died for nothing.
Let me get this from you as I move to Major Polawich. You were not keen on special interest group elections, right?
No, if you're a political actor, you are keen on every election, even if you can't win it. If you've chosen this tedious process, because the options you have is what they did in 1980, is to draw a conclusion and say, no, this whole thing is fake. Let us go all out, pick arms, have another round of killing each other, and sort it out. But you may install another dictator. Also, you will not have a fundamental change, but a mere change of guard. But we choose this very deliberate, non-violent process. It's very, very telling, very frustrating, knowing when there is every opportunity, use it to expose.
Thank you. Major Paula Awich, is there a reason, or would the NRM call this an election worth writing home about?
So much. I think our views is different from Honorable's views. Where I mean we as NRM party. You see, it is already engraved and enshrined in the grand norm of the law, the constitution, the provision, the need to uphold these special interest groups. And therefore, relevant laws were made to that effect to operationalize those provisions. For us in NRM, we know that Uganda is the second youngest country after Niger. We have the biggest population of the youth, and therefore we deliberately take great care and we invest. To that effect, we did it deliberately, insert in our party constitution structures for the youth, starting with what we call a branch. A branch in our system is a village, and therefore we deliberately invest that at village level we have branches of our youth, to the extent that we even have secretary for women in the youth, secretary for students in the youth, and it grows up. And therefore, in effect, even in structural organization, we elect our structures at youth level. All these other parties don't, because they don't feel it necessary to invest at that level. Now, this is a political investment, but I would talk at economic investment, which we put in our manifesto and give to the government to invest, and that is listless. But back to political, is that because we take great care that Uganda is the second youngest country in the world after Niger, we deliberately invest there, to the extent that we have 5-member committee in the village. Now, when the National Youth Council comes and they elect 9, all our 5 members in the village get to the national of the 9, and even the other 4 are our youth who would have lost to qualify among the 5.
But do you acknowledge the irregularities?
There is no irregularity. I was coming to that. On the question of register, registers for this special interested group were displayed 4 days. You were even allowed to transfer if your name was appearing on the youth in Kampala and you wanted to vote in Kitgum. You were even allowed. The registry was displayed. I'm surprised Honorable is saying it was on the phone. It was a 4-day display of the register with allowance for transfer, with allowance for correction, with allowance for any other pilot situation that you wanted. So the registry was displayed all over the country. And the voting time was between 9 and 5 in the morning, in the evening. Everything was perfect. Well, maybe perfect could be a wrong word, but everything was fair, because you can't get perfection in life anyway. So it was a free and fair, and that's why the diction, the choice of words in these phrases are fair, not perfect. That's why I withdraw perfect, because the choice of diction is fair. Therefore, what our colleagues have not done.
Did you see the role of RDCs, the military, and agents of the state in disrupting the exercise in many areas of the country?
No. The role of the central government that came is in area of law and order, where there appeared to be confusion and they had to provide an overarching role of security. But in the election, it was managed by Election Commission.
What is the possibility that NRM manipulated the mess, the chaos, to win?
There's no possibility.
To secure
there
a
is
win.
no possibility, Kagwa, because we are structurally, institutionally so prepared that we did not even expect such, because we know for a fact that our colleagues don't invest there. While we invest in terms of even superstructural, in terms of legislation, the internal legislation of the party, we took due care to do that. And not only do we take due care to engrave and enshrine in our party constitution, but even operationalize it. Some of our friends think it is dull, boring, and unnecessary. When it comes to the results is when they start to cry.
To what extent does it give you a sense that maybe finally NRM has been able to woo back the youth vote?
A lot. You see, the NUP, for example, you could say the youth that formed the NUP came from the success of NRM. It's like you are trying to get a solution and you create a problem. For example, you want to industrialize. In the process of industrialization, you create pollution. So are you going to run away from industrialization because you fear pollution? No, you industrialize and deal with pollution. So what happens is that in the government attempt for education, in the government attempt for health, vaccination, immunization, and all this, many youth were educated, especially in the urban area, and it led to that bulge. And that bulge is what formed the youth base at the beginning. But we later on followed it up to cure. We followed it after realizing that true, you have educated the youth, true, you have made them healthy, but now so what? They are now crying. We have followed it with the various interventions, the economic intervention that I said, to the extent that even in urban areas where we had those youth, including Kamocha, they're now with us. They all voted for us.
Thank you.
So we corrected it.
Thank you. Honorable Salaamu.
Yes, thank you.
NRM won and they're chest thumping. Did the opposition lose the special interest group elections?
What are special interest groups and what is the intention? What is the rationale? The rationale is to give a platform for the youth voice to be heard, to be articulated, the persons with disability to be articulated, the elderly of all lots, elderly as a bloated thing, also have some kind of voice, saying what nobody knows, just presence. So what was the purpose? What's the rationale of all these special interest groups? I think that's where we lose it. It's not for chest thumping, It is to have a viable community of young people that are proud to belong, that also add their voice to the growth of this society. It's not just numbers. If you want numbers, the numbers are there already in the adult suffrage vote. So what is NRM chest thumping about? What are you writing home about? When the biggest investment you have for this country is ghettos, you know, and they have, and your entire purpose is to popularize ghettos even where they don't exist, as if it's the smartest word in the world. Okay? You have also failed so far to review, as required by, I think, Article 78 of the Constitution, to review and evaluate the special interest group every 10 years. You haven't done nothing. And so I can't sit here to celebrate unconstitutionalism,
okay, but
for the sake of talking.
Do these elections give pointers to what 2026 holds?
They do nothing. They just point to the rot, systemic and systematic rot. I mean, if you cannot pay attention to what the Constitution commands, then what are we discussing? Are you aware that this is supposed to be reviewed every 10 years?
Yes, I am.
Have we done anything like that in the past 30 years? So I'm not part of that chorus that want to talk about failure and celebrate failure.
Okay, ordinarily you'd say that the youth and special interest group elections, youth and other special group special interest group elections set the tone for an election, because
They do nothing.
They are the first elections to be held.
I'll tell you, check your pulse, check your political pulse. It's an empty space. Because no youth worth the name, apart from celebratory things. There's nothing. What is the function of that? Even the youth councils are dead. The women councils are dead. The person, if you want to know about people with disability, the first voice and the last voice must have been for James Edieza Mwanda. Ndezi. I'm sure you don't know any person with disability that is talking for disability in this country anymore. And if they talk, what do they say? They even have a minister. But what are the issues on the table? It's an empty space. Talk about the elderly. What do they talk about? My dear friend, Fonopondo, is finding a safe entry into politics. But so what? What have they impacted the body politics of this country?
Okay.
When men were men, and my brother here was very active in politics, I mean, we talked issues, not numbers, not celebrating empty nothings.
Okay.
Tell me something about special interest
Special
groups.
interest group elections are one of the key things on the electoral calendar, on the roadmap of the electoral commission.
Yes, for accountability purposes and for purposes of drawing
We count
allowances.
that ticked.
You can
In
go
whose
on.
favor?
Have it. Have all of it 100%. Then what?
It was 89%.
I'm giving you 100%. Then what?
Major Kirabon, you won, so what?
We won, and it gives us a lot of energy, but also gives a challenge. You know, we have had these debates in these spaces. One thing I found out is that sometimes we, the leaders, are not moving in tandem with the people. Mwalimu Nyerere used to say, a leader should not lag behind, and the people he leads go in front of him. Neither should he go in front and leave the people behind. A leader should move with the people. We could sit here in Kampala and debate and make analysis and say Uganda is falling apart, but the people who live in this country every day, they go to work in their shambas, in their markets, the students who go to institutions of higher learning, the mechanics in their spaces where they operate, know where Uganda has come from and where it is. And when they go to vote and they express their hopes and aspirations through their vote, let's not laugh at them. The elite, we the elite have a tendency of being divorced from reality. Now look, NRM, we have very many contradictions which have been there since its founding in 1981. But there is a mechanism for resolving contradictions within the NRM.
NRM since 1981?
1981. Oh. And contradictions will be there, internal, there are methods of resolving them. But on the whole, NRM has always insisted on grassroots representation. And that's why the numbers look the way they do. Because if you have in the 72,000 villages of Uganda a committee of 30 people, if you multiply simple arithmetic, it tells you that the NRM has around about 2.1 million people when they finish their primaries. Now we have finished our primaries from village to district. Now, when you come to this selection of special interest groups, you have 5 people, older persons, you have another 5 people with disabilities, then you have 9 youth. That makes 19. When you multiply that, you come to a figure which is like 1.5 million people. Now, this is a very high level of organization. When a political party starts with those numbers, and each of those people mobilizes 3, we have already won the election.
That's what
now, when you come,
psychological.
I thought that's
so when you come,
NRM has always had, and
yes, because it's the reality.
Without any change, nothing.
Because it's the reality. If you have 30 people in every village, and you have 72,000 villages, and at the starting line, you already have 2.1 million people, and each one of them mobilizes just 3 members of his family or friends, you have won an election. So, but if now the leadership is vigilant, and Okwiri goes to Toro and mobilizes 5,000 people.
Very good road, yeah?
We have a tarmac road from Fort Portal to Kasese, a tarmac road from Fort Portal to Bundubujo,
That's a conversation
tarmac
for
road
another
from...
day.
Yes.
Yes.
So the NRM, while it looks at the fundamentals in economics and tries to resolve problems of infrastructure, income, household income, youth unemployment being addressed through MO and PDM, when all those are done, together with this representative democracy, grassroots mobilization, you just can't beat us.
Okay. Do you feel proud that you won an election where the opposition was literally withdrawn? They were not interested at all. You went it alone.
But this is a competition. We are not responsible for their paralysis. If the opposition cannot sit down and analyze Uganda's problems, if they have failed to work together, even on the basics of saying we don't agree with this economic strategy, we don't agree with the methods of democratization that the NRM propagates, they have failed to agree on that.
Are we supposed to?
If you think that because the narrative has been Museveni is the problem, Museveni is the problem on this, Museveni is the problem, the NRM is the problem, then mobilize and confront the problem. But the NRM has systematically dealt with problem after problem, slowly but surely.
Thank you. Honorable Mwanga Chivumbi, the opposition seems to be setting their eyes on the big ball, and that's the presidential and parliamentary election. How critical are you looking at the roadmap?
Fundamentally, you see, let me first clarify a few things. See, Major Rabon and myself are products of youth activism. And I think to an extent, Honorable Salaamu came through civil service and straight into election. But me and Major Rabon are a product, pure products of youth activism. For him, with a little bit of a background in military. Not a bit, with a solid background in the military. Therefore, maximum discipline, maximum definition of purpose and mission. Now, the tragedy that can happen to a country, for which you must all be sad, is that you have young people who are being ushered into public life through rigged processes. From the age of 18, you are teaching young people.
Corrupted.
You are corrupting them. For me, that's the biggest scandal that you are causing, is that you are teaching young people, 18 years, 20 years, saying you can have your way through rigged processes. So you rig processes, because if you are aware, what was the role of a PISO in this process, even including the national registration of youth, how the DISOs were tossing up young people from one area and demanding money. Watch our speeches in Parliament during these processes. We complained of the unfairness. But for me, the strategy is the tragedy that we must condemn the perpetrators of this, is that you have a young people, even if it's at a family level, and you're a mother or a father, and you are teaching your children on how to beat processes, how to steal food, how to not to put food on the dining. And that's for me, that's the biggest worry, that are you going to have a very conscious youth like Rabon, like Mwanga Chivumbi, like Salaamu, Musumba, like who, when they grow up to become citizens, where at the infancy you corrupted them? And why should a political formation that has been in charge of this country for 40 years now, still need to manipulate? What a gross failure. How can you, after 40 years, you have perfected?
So this is the irony. NRM is celebrating the indiscipline of fraud.
After 40 years in power, is that for them to survive, they still need to manipulate a youth election, a women election, an election with a disability. What will disabled people do to you that you need to manipulate them? So for me, that's a bigger debate we must have, is that what kind of thinking is at the top level of this thing called NRM, that they think on any given thing you have to be crafty, you have to rig, you have to nothing you can do straight. Even if you are coming to Parliament to pass a law, you corrupt members of Parliament, you pass it, the eyes have it when the nose have it. I mean, what kind of society are we building? I was in China just a few weeks ago, and I went to a supermarket, and we we introduced ourselves and says, hey, what do you do? I told them I work for government. So they Googled, there's the way they, the technology now, IT. They laughed, they couldn't say, they said, you were a thief. And they laughed and said, you are government, you are a thief. Convince us you are not a thief. So as people,
that's the perception China has of us?
No, when you Google and you say government, what it gives you is that he's a thief. Now when young people see you, me, who are in government, they say, a thief. And you are introducing more thieves onto the... So for me, that's a bigger debate.
Global market.
That's a global market. For me, that's a bigger debate. That are you going to have a Rabon? Are you going to have a Salaamu Musumba out of this lot that at the initial stage, you are introducing them to this kind of manipulation and think that's the right way. And gentlemen, and the tragedy is, you have gentlemen paid at Secretariat.
For that.
Paid ministerial level wages to simply do that. I know these guys are paid as ministers.
Major Paula, you want to come in on that?
And they're paid to corrupt the young people and give us this lot, that product, And they are proud that they have perfected it.
Okay, Major Paula, you could give us your response.
My point of intervention is that Honorable Kivumbi he has brought an indictment on NRM for manipulation. He is the complainant, is the investigator, is the judge, and is the executor. To accuse us of manipulation and fraud in this interest group election is not correct. The registry, as I said, the whole process was managed by Electoral Commission. And to the extent that there were 4 days of petition for any irregularities in the registry process. And to the extent that because in the case of their party, they only involve the youth in social media, they have not invested in institutional framework to build the youth from down. We have done it. Now, where is the manipulation? Where is the complainant, is the investigator, and he has judged and ruled on us that we are manipulators and we are fraudulent? That is not correct. It's not correct to say we are fraudulent in this. We have deliberately...
Okay. Do you agree there were gross irregularities?
There was no gross, not even irregularity. Even the word gross, you're using double negatives.
Okay.
Gross irregularity.
Do you agree there were glaring irregularities?
No, I only said fair. That is the word, the choice of diction I had. Fair. This election.
What's your parameter of fairness?
Fair means you could find, for example, people who didn't come to inspect the registry for one reason or the other, that they could have been a petition, my name is not there, or I was meant to be transferred, or even others who came in late. Such minor irregularities. But short of that, Kagwa disinterest group was clean election. In any case, how do our colleagues say there was manipulation when they didn't even invest in it? They didn't even, in many places, they didn't even present candidates. Meaning, it now brings me to Honorable Salaam's issue of the evaluation of the importance of interest groups. She seems to think that we have this and they are not important. Then, question the wisdom of the Constituent Assembly makers. Question the wisdom of the lawmakers, which I think you are one who operationalized those provisions. You know, provisions in the national constitution has to be operationalized by an act of parliament. Now, if we are to evaluate what they have done, for us we have done our part to make it work. Because if we didn't make it work, still the blame would come on us. Oh, you have interest group, you have failed to operationalize, you don't have them, they are not elected. Now, it would also be unfair to judge these people in their working by how much they speak. Some of these people achieve their aims and objectives without not necessarily talking. They sit down, they read policies. For example, in the case of the youth, they have put in provision where even in contract, PPDA, there are provisions where a contract below 30 years give to the youth. They have made sure that things are institutionalized in laws, in policies. So do you want such a person to speak for you to know, oh, disabled X is speaking, or youth Y is talking? You can talk through institutional framework to set out objectives and achieve them. But even then, if we had not done it, we would still be blamed. So we do that and we have achieved where we can, where we have.
Okay.
Now, to say that the opposition was not interested is a wrong packaging. The opposition were interested. In fact,
are they saving face?
Yes, the eve of the election, some of us were not sleeping, thinking, because the talk they have had, the social media hype they had done, they appeared like they were very serious and giving us that time, to the extent that we even thought back and said, are we serious? What these people are talking in social media, it seems we have not done enough. Our friends are laid out here said, look, we have institutionally invested from the grassroots to up. Let's see what happened. But now after losing is where they said they are not prepared. Look at the records on social media. They hyped and said they were ready. And they said they were going to sue.
Have they been bad losers?
They are bad losers. They should just go back on the drawing board and say, for the case of the youth, Uganda is a young country, the youngest second to Niger. We should see if we really want to invest in youth, if we really want to invest in special interest groups, and we need it. If you say there's a need for evaluation after 10 years, so be it. But I'm sure, Honorable Salam, if we went for a review and we say we remove, or for example, I say Honorable Salam said remove the women affirmative action because it is enough, they want to be happy with that.
Thank you. Honorable Salam, in your submission, you seemed to downplay the significance of special interest group elections. But they're one of the key events on the electoral roadmap drawn by the Electoral Commission. Have you, as the opposition, sat down to critically scrutinize this roadmap and what it speaks to in regard to the forthcoming election?
That's our business every day, 24/7. Our business is politics. Our business is putting our energy where the power is. Some of these structures are redundant, just propaganda value, like the youth structure, the women structures, the women council structures. They're just propaganda value. They do not impact the lives of the people that they are set out to do. And so if they are basically residual things, leave them be residual. And they are residual things.
They are the starters.
They start nothing.
They are starters for the next election.
Listen to me. They start nothing. If they were starting anything, then you would know that the development and the way resources are channeled, they will be channeled to the villages. These are propaganda tools and weapons. For my dearest brother, intelligent, the Bonekwi reduced just to sanitizing robbery. Stealing a life of a young person is the worst you can do to a country. You know? So, what we have is a redundant, idle structure that they call that they've invested. You have done nothing, sir. How much have you put there? People are scampering to these positions as begging addresses in the hope that when you are in a youth council or you are in the structures, you might get a job as assistant what? RDC or thing, or NC, something to be dished out. You have a desperate young population that is latching on to anything to be, but it's an empty space. These are redundant, idle propaganda tools.
Okay, honestly speaking.
Yes, and I'm being honest.
The special interest group elections are behind us. What do you see next?
These are recycled democratic waste things. Very, very, very recycled, empty, not reviewed. They are not fit for purpose. You're wasting young people's lives. Let me compare, Rabon. When men were men, and there was the Young Democrats, and they were the NUSU, National Union of Students of Uganda. Are you near that as an entity that has all the majority resources? The youth, the young people manufactured by NUSU, manufactured by the Young Democrats, are unparalleled. And they were no, I mean, who have you made as NRL? You get people from other parties that are ready for use and you turn them into yours. You have not made your own cadreship. And that's an indictment on you. What are you doing in your offices anyway? Rumor mongering? I don't see a product. I